if we don't face the things that are silently destroying us, it will eventually destroy everything. So welcome back to another episode of Forge Not Fixed. I am Tyson Demery, and this is the place where we as men are having conversations that I think most men try to avoid. And that's kind of the whole point of this podcast. So today I kind of am doing a off the cuff about something that happened to me this week, something I did not expect, but that I think that everyone who subscribes and who follows me needs to hear. A few days ago, I posted something on social media. And anyone who knows me, I talk about my own struggles, things I've been through, things I've had to face about myself and about my past, things that I, as most men, I think would rather have avoided. But I was in a prison cell that forced me to face those things in order to gain my freedom. And since sharing this, my DMs have not stopped. Men have been reaching out, men who felt something when they listened to what I had to say. Men who said things like, "Oh, I thought it was just me," or "I didn't think anyone else felt this way," or, "I've never said this out loud to anyone, and I can't believe I'm reaching out to a stranger, someone I don't know." And I sat with every single one of these messages because there's something in them that broke my heart just a little bit. Because I don't think any of these men, and I really hope some of you are listening to this right now that sent me a DM, you're not weak men. These are, I don't believe anyways, I've only had brief communication with each of them, but I don't think these are men who have fallen apart yet. I think these are men that are at the crossroads. These are men with families, careers, with potential, with goals and dreams and aspirations like us all, right? They have people depending on them. Men, though, that feel like they are carrying the weight of the world on their backs every single day. And almost every single one of these men apologized to me after for sharing their brief struggle or how they were feeling, saying, "Oh, I'm sorry. I can't believe I messaged you this. I'm so sorry." Like it made them less of a man. Like they owed me an explanation for feeling something, for being a human being. And I need to say something about that right now because you guys aren't broken. Okay. You're not. I don't believe that. Not for a second. And I've never believed that. Not about the men that I've worked with or the men that I want to work with. Not about anyone that reached out to me, and not about you, my listener, because you're not broken, but there is something that is broken. And that's what I want to talk about today. And that's the silence. We were handed a story somewhere along the way while we're brought up, right? Probably when we were young, right? And I think we've all been handed that same story, that a man handles his own problems, that asking for help is a sign of weakness, that if you're struggling, well, then that's what being a man is. And you just keep your head down, you push through, you suck it up, and you don't let anyone see it. And for the longest time, we believed it. We built walls, we got quiet, we learned how to look like everything was fine when we were anything but fine. And those walls, that silence, that inability to turn to each other and say, "I'm not okay. I need someone to know that." That's what's broken. Not you. It's the inability to communicate what's going on inside of here and inside of here. Now, I want to talk to you about what I think is actually happening with a lot of men right now, because I think we're at a point where the old way of doing things, I think we're realizing that it's not working anymore. Finally. It's one of the good things I think about social media and communication now is, as men, I think enough people have come out to say, "I'm not okay." The push through and pretend strategy has a ceiling, right? It has a cap. And a lot of men, they're hitting it, especially with how much more demand I think is on men right now in today's society. Whether it's the marriage that's falling apart, the kids you are present for physically, but gone for in every other way, the career that looks like success from the outside and feels like a slow death from the inside, and the anger that comes out sideways and out of nowhere at the people that you say you love the most. Look, these aren't just character flaws. I believe these are symptoms of a man who's been avoiding something for a very long time. And the longer you avoid it, the more it's going to cost you. That means that if you don't face it now, you're going to pay dearly for it later. And I'm telling you, you will pay one way or another. That bill is going to come due at some point. So you have to either face it on your terms, which is, I think, almost what these men are doing, right? They're taking the opportunity to acknowledge, hey, I'm struggling. That's your terms, okay? And you get in front of it. You start doing some work. You start accepting where you are. You start acknowledging what's not working, what needs to fundamentally change. And you start building a system. You start building a routine. You start building habits and setting goals, ones that start bringing you forward. Because what you're doing right now is just kind of just keeping you in place, right? And we end up doing that because we numb out. So many men I work with just numb out at the end of the day, right? Whether you're using alcohol, drugs, food, gambling, porn, whatever it is, whatever gets our mind off of whatever we don't want to face. You need to go through that process of becoming the man you actually want to be, the one that I know each of us has in us. And if we don't do that, at some point, life's going to force your hand. And when that happens, when life forces your hand, you don't get to choose the timing. You don't get to choose what you lose in the process. So again, I want to talk about the men who reached out to me this week because I want them to hear something. I want you who's listening right now, I need you to hear something. What they did and what you did, it takes strength, real strength. Not the kind that looks good in the gym, right? Not the one that I get my clients to track on the app that they use, right? Not the kind that earns you a promotion, but the kind that most men never end up developing because it's hard. The strength to look at yourself honestly and say, something in me needs to change. And the strength that it takes to say that out loud, because acknowledging that is hard, especially as men, because our pride, our ego, it gets in the way. You all heard of that term, ego death. Well, it'll kill, and it kills everything. It takes strength to take one step towards something different, even when you have no idea what that looks like yet. I mean, I started doing that in my cell, and I wanted my freedom, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. I didn't know what that was going to take, but I knew something had to change. And when I realized that feeling, it was one of the most important, significant things I ever did. And it got me where I am today. And that's where you're at right now. So don't scroll past it. Don't try to distract yourself out of it. When you feel that discomfort, sit in it for a minute. Because that feeling, that's the base of the mountain. It's like being dropped off in front of Mount Everest and looking at it and realizing the climb, right? We've all seen the mountain in National Geographics or on documentaries, right? And I'm sure a lot of us are in awe of anyone who's climbed Mount Everest, but very few ever attempt it, and very few ever succeed in that climb. Now, if we're in awe from just seeing it on TV, imagine being dropped at base camp and seeing that mountain in front of you. That's where you guys are right now. Many men talk about wanting to change, but few ever do. And that's why few ever succeed in the climb. And the thing is, too, if you take that mountain analogy a little bit further, right? Does anyone attempt to climb alone? No. They get a Sherpa, they get a guide to take them. Why? Because they've done the climb, they've seen the dangers, they're aware of those dangers, and they're going to help you survive. Without them, death is certain. Same thing applies to this. Help almost ensures success so long as you listen and so long as you put in the work. Okay? Now, you have a choice. You can stand at that base camp and you can let the sight of that mountain that you're about to attempt, you can let it paralyze you. You can turn around and walk away and just keep doing what you've been doing, right? Ignorance is bliss, or at least you can drown it in vices for the rest of your life, or until life comes knocking and the bill comes due. Or you get your guide and you start the climb. Now, I've done the climb and I had help. I had a correctional officer, I had a parole officer, I had a therapist. I took programs, countless programs while I was incarcerated, and countless times and hours in my cell. I want you to think a decade behind bars, that's over 87,000 hours invested in becoming arguably the best version of myself. And I'm still working on myself on a daily basis because growth doesn't stop. Right? I did all that change while I was in prison. When I came out, I also had to adapt to a completely different world. I need you guys to understand, when I went into prison, I had never even held a smartphone. Never. Smartphones had just been issued, had just come out, I think in 2007, 2008. My last phone was a BlackBerry Pearl. So I came out to a whole new world. Social media and apps and thumbprint identification, then face identification and all these different things. It's crazy. So growth doesn't stop. Now that climb is not easy. And I need you to understand that a part of you will not survive it. A part of you right now, a part of who you are right now, has to go. Consider it your doppelganger, right? That version of you that's built on fear, avoidance, anger, emotional unawareness. I don't even know if that's the right terminology for this, but the things that you've basically been carrying to protect yourself from this exact moment, the things you've been using to avoid this exact moment. That person, that version of yourself, he cannot make it to the top, and he's never supposed to. He has to be buried and die. Well, he has to die and be buried, I should say, somewhere on that mountain, so that the right version of yourself, the right man, who you're supposed to be, comes back down. That's not tragedy. That death is necessary. And that's the point. So guys, if this is your first time here, welcome to the foundation of what Mind System is trying to build. That's what this show is. It's honest conversations. It's real struggles, no performance. Now, if you've got something out of this conversation today, please share it with a friend, a man in your life who needs to hear it. You can find my Instagram page at Mind System Canada, or even check my website, mindsystem.ca. And if you're ready to just stop listening and start doing something about it, like I said, just reach out to me, DM me, email me, please. I'd love to hear from you. Now, guys, you're not broken. You're just the first one in your circle who's being honest about it. I'll see you next week. This is Forged, Not Fixed. Bye for now.